1v1, the winner gets whatever they desire. Reminiscent of the Modern Warfare 2 days where you would 1v1 on Rust, quickscopes only with the intervention. Winner gets bragging rights. It was where boys become men, at the very least I did. Those were nostalgic times, and I often wish we could go back to those days where multiplayer shooters were so fun, but I digress. In the manga, the throne of Superman, also known as the front of Superman, bragging rights is the ability to continue living as well as what that person desires. Since this is a fight to the death, no holds barred. It's a death game manga. Two people must fight to the death. The entity arranging these death matches is Faye, a woman of unknown origin with violet hair who is often seen naked. You learn later on that Faye and her otherworld entity friend, Mate, aren't from this dimension. They are from the 2nd and 5th dimensions respectively. These fights to the death bring out intense emotions from the players, which are like drugs to these entities. These emotions are like the entity's fuel, and the people's desperation to stay alive makes these entities very happy and horny. It's what they are obsessed with. The Throne of Superman consists of 15 total fights, split into 2 different rounds. The first round is Esper vs Expert, totaling 7 different fights. The second half of the manga, aka round 2, is Genius versus the winners of the first round, totaling 8 fights. This second round has much greater implications than the first, because not only are their lives in danger, but the fate of the world as well. Like I said, in round 1 it is Esper versus Expert. Espers are gifted their ability from Faye, from multi-dimensional space-time. The power gifted can be anything, such as telekinesis, intangibility, or pyrokinesis to name a few. Each Esper's ability comes with some type of drawback or limitation. Win and they get to keep their new power. The catch is that each person's gift is given based on their desires and focuses on the strengths of that person. For example, Fire Girl's power increases the greater her pain. She's already emotionally traumatized from being a rape victim, but when she loses a leg in the fight, her firepower becomes even more potent. It's comparable to the humans in Record of Ragnarok getting their powers from the Valkyrie, which enhance their best traits. The humans that are gifted these supernatural abilities are mostly just average Joes lacking fighting experience and knowledge of how strong their ability actually is. They are at a disadvantage compared to the people they are fighting, the experts. Experts are given a chance to get what they desire, but must win the fight without the help of these superhuman abilities. Luckily for experts, they already have some type of skill that puts them at an advantage in this fight. They have the training, experience, and capabilities to put up a good fight, despite the odds technically not being in their favor. Those are the things the experts lack. Expert player skills include things like being a master swordsman, kung fu master, or assassin. The prizes they desire are things like freedom, a chance at revenge, and healing a loved one to name a few. After the first round, there are 7 winners designated by Faye, 4 espers, and 3 experts. There's no rest for the wicked. Round 2 starts swiftly. The humans must take on the 7 warriors of Mate, who are all geniuses that once lived in this world. These geniuses include Isaac Newton, Charles Darwin, and Leonardo da Vinci. But they are now artificial life forms. Just like the espers, the geniuses have abilities that complement whatever they were best at. So, for example, Newton has the ability of gravity manipulation. These resurrected geniuses claim to be the future of humanity and plan for Renaissance too. They are the apocalypse, wanting to reboot mankind by creating a perfect society, and are willing to annihilate billions of lives to do so, leaving only the smart and strong alive. Round 2 fights are much more difficult for the humans. In terms of power, they are heavily outmatched, forcing them to rely on their imagination and battle experience fresh in their mind. This section also draws parallels to Record of Ragnarok, since the future of humanity hangs on these fights. The fights are relatively short, mostly being around 2 chapters each. You get to see some of the worst sides of humanity in round 1, and understandably so, since this is a winner-takes-all death game. Their lives are on the line, so they're going to do everything they possibly can to preserve them. At the end of the manga, humanity wins thanks to the help of Renji, the telekinetic. He's successful in defeating the final boss in Leonardo da Vinci, and shifts himself into a different timeline with his ability. Faye and Mate return to their dimensions when the gate to their world closes. Faye leaves Renji a parting gift, her violet hair, before he shifts timelines. A now purple-haired Renji deserves recognition since he participated in and won the most fights throughout the manga. 3. Not to mention he saved humanity. Everything returns back to normal. Nobody besides Renji remembers what happened. All of the participants are able to live successful and happy lives, getting what they wanted. Humanity's greatest power is their imagination. It's the most important thing you see from these games used by humans in their fights. Despite humanity's powers and abilities having limitations, they can surpass those limits with the help of their imagination. In the first round, where it is Esper versus Expert, the experts do not know the full extent of the Esper's abilities, but by using their imagination, experts can think of ways to defeat them. Whoever the victor is then takes that battle experience and imagination and uses it in the Genius versus Humans matches. The Espers have limits to their powers, but by using their imagination, they can expand the use of those abilities and use them in creative ways. The best example of using imagination to the fullest comes from Renji, the telekinetic who can only move stuff the size of a baseball or smaller. Size is his limitation, but he can move stuff as fast as he wants. There's no limitation as to how much he can move either. By using his imagination, he wins the final fight against Leonardo da Vinci. Not only does his imagination think of generating nuclear fusion, creating a fusion plasma beam, he also creates a time machine with his ability. It's the very thing that the geniuses were going to create. Imagination is a common thing with the second round of fights as well. It's the logic of the geniuses versus the imagination of the humans. The geniuses point out that their logic is perfect, adding to their cocky nature. What they don't realize is that their imagination is part of the reason they were so smart back in their day, helping them think of various theories, uniting people, and being so successful. These geniuses mock humanity for their imagination, acting like logic is far superior, which leads to their downfall. Faye notices humanity's imagination as a powerful weapon, and Mate acknowledges its importance as the fights progress. There's also the imagination of the author to have some plot armor for the humans. That helps tremendously too. Overall, the fights were interesting and good. Each character who won round 1 felt like they were special or chosen. They realized before round 2 start that they were in fact not. They were only playthings to amuse both Faye and Mate. There was tons of blood and gore and some ridiculously badass moments in these fights, such as using your blown off hand as a telekinetic weapon. One of the most badass panels comes from a fight in round 2. Everest Galoy, a mathematician who laid the groundwork for abstract algebra, versus Bluesman. The fight only lasts a couple of panels, but it's ridiculous. Galoy's ability is being able to transform 3D space, so he rearranges his opponent, Bluesman's body, organs and all, into the shape of a cross. Such a badass moment that I wasn't expecting. 10 out of 10 idea that needs recognition and applause. The best fight from the series was easily from round 1, fight 4. Kung Fu Master Ya versus Dr. Morio, who is a sick fuck. The doctor is blind but is given the ability of ultravision, allowing him to now see even more. It's an interesting dynamic since both people are happily killers. It's also interesting since it's an all business-like fight. The Kung Fu Master even whips out the Kamehameha at one point. As a whole, the round 1 fights were better than round 2's. If you're curious what my favorite fight was in round 2, it was a tag team fight numbers 3 and 4. Swordmaster and Wire Girl versus a Philosopher and Shaman, where the power of love prevails. Kind of. I'd put that fight as second best overall, and it includes my favorite character, Swordmaster Sasamura. I like the romance between Sasamura and Aisha, aka Wire Girl, but I wish it was explored more. They had a great dynamic together. The problem with the Throne of Superman lies in rushing the second half of the story. The first half was solid, although I'd like the backstories and the fights to last slightly longer, maybe one more chapter each. The idea of genius versus humans to fight for the future of humanity is interesting, but it was rushed. It's a common occurrence in stuff that I read and watch. I just want to see a little bit more from it, because the story is always lacking or a bit too rushed. Faye and Mate's end was unsatisfactory, as well as Leo's death. In fact, the whole storyline outside the fights was average at best. We never even got to see all 7 geniuses fight either. There was some romance among the group, like I said earlier, between Wire Girl and Sasamura, which I would have liked to see be explored a bit more, as well as just seeing the winners interact more with one another. The Throne of Superman falls into the category of wasted potential for me, and gets a 6 out of 10. As usual, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.